more Chauncey. No, 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 no!
Imaginary stars DeWanda Wise, Tegan Burns, Piper Braun, and is directed by Jeff Wadlow. And it's about a stepmom moving back into her childhood home with her new family when the littlest daughter, Alice, develops an imaginary friend named Chauncey. But there is something sinister afoot, and Chauncey may not be all what he seems to be. I thought Imaginary was okay. When I was watching it, it kind of gave me the feel of like a 90-minute long Goosebumps movie. If you kind of subtract out the adult element to this and you only focused it on the littlest sister and the older sister, it legit feels like something that R.L. Stine could have written. But I kind of dug the concept of it. I thought it was pretty ambitious, maybe a little too ambitious for its own good. You know, this supernatural entity that feeds off of children's imaginations and kind of drains them of it in order to feed its own sustenance. I kind of dig that, but it didn't completely stick the landing, and this has been a common thread with horror movies this year, and I feel like where they present a pretty interesting or cool concept, but they just can't drive it home as effectively as you would want it to be. The characters are all okay, they're serviceable, they're not too deeply written. I mean, we got the stereotypical, you know, older daughter versus stepmom versus younger daughter kind of triangle thing where the older sister doesn't like the stepmom, but the younger sister does. And then by the end of the movie, the older sister kind of has a change of heart and all of a sudden she likes the stepmom. But the one character that did have me kind of cracking up, I can't remember her name, but she's the old lady. I called her Old Lady Loomis because when she shows up, she's kind of unhinged. And she's only there purely to just expositate. Is expositate a word? Basically, she's just there to explain whatever the hell is going on so we, the audience, understand. But that's it. That's like her one main function of this movie. And once she has fulfilled her purpose, she gets killed off. And again, kind of useless. They could have done the whole expository stuff in a different way, probably in a more creative way. But instead, you know, like they had to employ this actress, and good on her for earning a check, but it's just completely useless and unnecessary.
Can I hang out with your imaginary friend?
He's not your friend.
But now onto what I think are the detriments to this movie. And like I said before about Old Lady Loomis, there is a lot of expository nonsense, and it happens a lot in the third act, which I feel like slows this movie down. Had they sprinkled in a lot of these details and explanations throughout the movie, you know, kind of evenly or sporadically here and there, it probably would have helped pace the movie along a little bit better. Dumping it all on us at the end was just kind of overkill. Now, this movie does employ a lot of cheap jump scare tactics, which isn't uncommon in today's horror, but the worst one out of the whole movie, for me at least, was there was a scene where the little girl is having tea, and the stepmother thinks that the little girl is having tea with her imaginary friend Chauncey. So when she opens the door, something rushes at her, and at first you think it's the entity, you think it's the evil force coming for the stepmother, but it turns out that it's the little girl's biological mother, who is alluded to that she's been kind of going through some mental issues of her own. That's all well and good, but it has no payoff. Like, this whole scene wasn't necessary. This could have been cut out of the movie, but it's only there to serve that purpose of, oh, we need a jump scare in this movie, so we might as well just throw this shit in there. Plus, they also picked odd points to drop in humor. They really just didn't set the humor up properly, and when it shows up, it's completely out of left field and catches you off guard. And especially in scenes where it's supposed to be pretty tense, and then they drop in a stupid gag line, and you're like, where the fuck did that come from? It kind of felt like David Gordon Green levels of, we'll just drop in dumb shit randomly.
Chauncey's coming for you.
And my last big gripe here is that I feel like too much time is spent in the imaginary world. Now, spoiler, the little girl gets taken by Chauncey to the imaginary world, so it's up to the stepmother and the older sister and, you know, crazy Loomis lady to go get the little girl Alice back. And when they finally find the younger daughter, the younger sister, Alice, she's having the time of her life. She's having so much fun, but the stepmother and the sister are trying to tell her this isn't real and you need to come back. And, Chauncey's there to kind of interject what he feels little girl should do, which is obviously stay because he needs to feed off of her power. There wasn't enough of a tug of war between, the stepmother and Chauncey over, basically the soul of this little girl. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of a corruption of this little girl. Not to where it's really sinister and evil and, it doesn't need to go that far. But something to where there was a little bit more at stake. Because as soon as the stepmother and the older sister show up and basically tell her this isn't real, you need to come home, she's like, okay. And the movie more or less kind of just wraps itself up. It wraps itself up in a way where there's an obvious fake out where you think she's left the imaginary world, but she really hasn't, just to ultimately be rescued. And, they all leave the imaginary world together and put this behind them with no other plans for a sequel. Now, I know it sounds like I did shit on this movie a lot, and there is a lot of things that I think are wrong with it, but I still did have fun with it. At least more than a lot of the horror movies I have so far this year. So my recommendation for it, while I'm not going to say rush out and see it, I would say at least wait for streaming. I do think you guys would enjoy it, but just not worth the price to see it in the theaters. It was just my imagination. But anyways, that was my look at Imaginary. Yeah, this movie has problems with it, but I feel like if you just tweaked little things here and there, it could have been a lot better. And it's just one that I think was pulled out of the oven a little prematurely. But anyways, what were your guys' thoughts on Imaginary? If you have seen it, please post your comments below and like, comment, and subscribe. And, I'm going to try to get better over this little horse in my throat going on here. But as always, like, comment, and subscribe. Adios. Now, GTFO.